Throughout Advent, we follow a rhythm of preparation for the coming of the Christ child. We hear John the Baptist talk about him coming, and then here we see the angel proclaiming to Mary what is to take place. Each of the Sundays has a theme: hope, looking ahead to the future; joy, that thing that can be so easily zapped from our lives by all those things around us. And today we look at the love, not the love of the world, not the love of friendship, but the love of God, the love that cares so much, so deeply, that it transcends the boundaries between heaven and earth to break away that barrier and come to be here in human form, to be with us, God incarnate. So what is that love? What does it look like? What does it mean to experience that love? This past Thursday, I received a message request on Facebook. For those who don't know what that is, Facebook has this messenger app that friends can exchange messages back and forth. And if somebody who has no contact with you previously tries to get in touch with you, you get a request. In other words, Facebook is asking your permission to send you this message. And I don't really check these requests very often, but I happened to see one on Thursday. And so I checked out the message, and it was from a woman named Stephanie. And she said, "Hi, I'm Stephanie, Ernest Gwynn," and then parentheses, it said Tex, youngest daughter. I knew exactly who Ernest Gwynn is. It's not just a Facebook friend, he's an old dive buddy. Tex and I go way back. Many years ago, when I decided to become a dive master, probably because it sounded cool, being master at something. The first thing I needed was more dives, and so through the local dive shop, I met this guy named Tex. And I said, do you have some free time? I need to build up my dives. And he said, yeah. And so that's how Tex and I met, and that's how we got to know each other. So let me describe Tex for you. He's about 6'4", 6'5", however tall he is, he makes me feel short. And he's broad-shouldered. He has one eye, likes to wear leather jackets and ride his motorcycle, and has the kind of face that you wouldn't want to mess with. But to me, Tex was just a buddy. And you need a dive buddy, not just for the camaraderie, not just to share the experience, but for safety. So as I was building up my dives, Tex and I would meet up. I mostly didn't see him on his Harley Davidson. I saw him in his old beat-up pickup truck, because you can't carry all your dive gear on a motorcycle. And we continued diving through the Chicago winter. In fact, there were a couple occasions when we had to take a saw with us to go diving. His daughter was writing to let me know that Tex had passed away. And she wanted to make sure I knew when his funeral would be. And when I read that message, I thought back with fondness to those times that we shared. For Tex, there was more to life than the diving. I told Melanie that he had passed away, and she reminded me of the time a group of us all went bowling. And whenever he would throw the ball, and I do mean throw, it made this thwack sound that echoed through the bowling alley, and I was convinced that his ball was going to break the wood in the lane before the evening was over. He threw it, in my mind's eye, I still visualize it overhanded. I don't believe that he did, but it just went with such force that it made a crash at the back of the alley with every throw. And as I thought about these themes of Advent, hope for the future, joy in the present moment, and the eternal love of God that breaks through all barriers, I remembered the joy of that evening, that time that we shared together. In Luke, we see a special kind of love. A love that looks a little strange, a love that may not be the way that we in the world define love. In Luke, we see this kind of love that leaves Mary much perplexed. A kind of love that's confusing. Because for her to receive this word, "Oh, greetings, favored one," would be a very strange kind of being favored. But the angel told her not to be afraid. These days can be perplexing and disturbing for us. Maybe through experiences we have, maybe through losing a loved one, maybe through facing uncertainty in the future. And there are so many things that can take us away from the love, the joy, and the hope of this season. It's easy to lose sight of who God is moving in this world, present with us. Advent and Christmas are about Jesus being incarnate. And it's so easy during this season to focus on things like presents under the tree instead of being fully present with one another. Being fully aware of who God is and what God is doing, not only here, but in your life. It's wonderful to gather together and go and look at the lights. That can be a source of joy. It can be life-giving, but we also need to be the light for the world. In Luke, the angel reassures Mary. Sometimes I think that we could use an angel to reassure us. An angel to show up and say, "Greetings, don't be afraid." The angel told her that she would bear the Son of God. We don't need that kind of news. That's already taken place. But we all need reassurance. We need to hear the angel say that everything is going to be okay. And the truth is, it is going to be okay. We need to know that God is with us in spite of all of the things that pull us down, confuse us, or like Mary when she first saw the angel, perplex us. For Mary, being favored by God means something more than we can experience anywhere else in the world. And when we get into the Gospel of Luke, we see a depth to knowing God, a richness to knowing God. In Luke, acceptability, prosperity, comfort, those aren't at the center of God's blessing. Those aren't at the center of God's calling for our lives. There's always more. God's love is present. If we look at the news, it's easy to see hatred. It's easy to see division. It's easy to see those things that pull us away from God. But if we can instead look at the world through God's eyes, we can see love all around us. God's love, ever-present love, eternal love. It might not be particularly special. It might not make the news, but it's there. It can be friends gathering at a bowling alley in Waukegan, Illinois, and chucking a bowling ball down the lane, and then laughing. And years, many, many years later, remembering that time together and the joy that it brought. God's love in Luke goes beyond contentment. It goes beyond momentary happiness. It goes to something eternal. It goes to something significant. Luke gives us imagery in this passage. In this whole season, in the beauty of the pageant, we see the imagery of God incarnate. It doesn't confront us with logic. Logic asks us to test everything against principles of validity. Luke is telling a story. He's telling us a truth about Jesus. The angel wasn't some meddlesome spirit, as Kierkegaard refers to it, who went to all of the women, the young women of Israel. Luke's Mary is special. She models faith. She knows how to accept Jesus, and she shows us how to say yes to God. For Luke, Mary plays a significant part. She's the first to believe, the first to tell others what she's heard. She is the first disciple. For Luke, being a disciple means hearing the word of God and incorporating it in our lives. Mary heard God speak through the angel and responded. She responded by incorporating this word into her life. In this sense, she's a model for every disciple who follows, including us, including today. In this experience, even though if we look at her life and all the twists and turns and having her first child in a manger, this makes her very much a favored one. And it leads us to the depths of faith. Tex and I often went diving on a shipwreck of a ship called the Seabird. It had a publicly maintained mooring ball, and we would go and tie up and put on our diving gear and go descend down the line. And out of the depth, the 150-year-old paddle wheel would take shape, and we would begin to see the familiar signs of the Seabird. Just like descending to the Seabird and seeing that paddle wheel take shape, going deeper in our faith reveals something. There's more to God's love than something at the surface level. There's more to God's love than just the happiness, the tinsel of the season. There's more to it. There's more to God's love than faith without action, or doing good without having any faith in God. God's love is tangible. God is with us. And that's the point of this season. I really wrestled with whether or not to share this quote. But there's a holiday movie, a Christmas movie, called Love Actually. And yeah, I see some groans. That's why I hesitated. Obviously, good judgment didn't get the better of me. But in that movie, Hugh Grant's character has a monologue that seems apropos for this theme of love and this season of Advent. He said, when the planes hit the Twin Towers, as far as I know, none of the phone calls from the people on board were messages of hate or revenge. They were all messages of love. If you look for it, I've got a sneaky feeling you'll find that love is actually all around us. I would amend it to say, God's love is around us. This season, go beyond contentment. Go beyond happiness. Go deeper. Go into God's love. Experience it. Be open to that love. Share it with other people. Live lives that reflect that love. Enjoy seeing the lights of the season, but also be the light of the season. Amen.